One of the two breakout international hits this year was Brazil's The Secret Agent. Even ended up garnering 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Wagner Moura. But is it the best of the Best Picture nominees? I'm Brad, this is Watch Rate Heart, and let's find out. A political thriller about corruption and violence. This is the Brazilian film The Secret Agent starring Wagner Moura, written and directed by Kleber Mendonça Filho. So these scores are as of March 10th, 2026, and they are subject to change. There's a Letterboxd score of 3.8 out of 5, an IMDb of 7.3 out of 10, as Rotten Tomatoes of 98% fresh, and a Metacritic of 91. As for accolades, it was nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Casting, and Best International Feature. It was nominated for 2 BAFTAs for Film Not in the English Language and Original Screenplay, and it lost the Palme d'Or to It Was Just an Accident. Alright, I will say this starting off with The Secret Agent. I think Wagner Moura's performance is very good. He does a lot in this film. He does a lot of comedy. He has a lot of paranoia in his performance. He does a lot in this film, and I think he's also very charismatic. I will say I do understand why he's getting a lot of praise for his performance. I also like the look of the film. I like the color palette. I like the 70s look of the film as well. It's just got this very interesting vibe to it that I really enjoyed. But I will say that even though I wasn't bored, it did take a while for it to get rolling, and I mean a while. I mean, the first act was interesting. I was kind of getting into it, and then the second act just dragged. It just was so slow. It was feeling a little bit aimless. And then it got good in the third act and I was just fine. But I will say that the film has this very anticlimactic ending that I just don't think really lands all that well. But also the ending is part of the section of the film that is set in present day that I just don't think really works. They have this whole section of the film where these 2 students are listening to tapes and trying to document what happened around that time. And I'm not entirely sure why that's there. There must be some kind of reason that is important to Brazilians as to why that is, and it just was kind of lost to me. If I'm being honest, there's things I like about The Secret Agent, Moura's performance, the way the film looks, but I will say it didn't really strike me. It didn't really have a hold on me all that much when I was watching it. I was not exactly waiting for it to end, but I was looking for a point where it's like, okay, when is this getting interesting? When is this going to get exciting? And it kind of didn't. It was fine for what it was, but I was a little surprised with all the praise it was getting. I will say that I overall do like the film, but I think not as much as I think a lot of other people do. And in every episode of Watch Rate Heart, I not only give you my opinion of the film I've seen, but also the opinions of the Letterboxd community. This first one is from Geo10Meg. Geo10Meg gives it 3.5 stars out of 5, and Meg says, "We're going to Brazil for this one. It's no secret that I am the absolute last person to get into politics, so in that regard, The Secret Agent was already not made for me. I'm the same way, actually. Fortunately, the political angle isn't the only element that earned it a Best Picture nomination. It's just the one that had me lost from start to finish. And that might be because the politics are so specific to Brazil, so that might be why. I'm not entirely sure what genre you say The Secret Agent belongs to, but it has a bit of everything: drama, action, horror. I'd also say a little bit of comedy as well. None of these individual elements ever peak quite high enough to make it the most powerful film of 2025, but picking up the pieces of the story gets significantly easier when there's a little something for everyone to enjoy." I agree with Meg on this one. I think the film tries to do a lot of different things, and I don't think they gel very well together. That said, I do think The Secret Agent is a bit aimless. I would say it's very aimless. You don't really focus on any character other than Armando, and even then, his storyline ends with a whimper. I absolutely agree with that. Perhaps an anticlimactic ending was the entire point, but it's the almost 3-hour runtime that made me miss it. This film is really long. There is a distinct lack of fulfillment by the end, isn't handled cleverly at all, leaving the general atmosphere as the only thing that truly stands out. The Secret Agent is an extremely well-crafted foreign film that ultimately goes nowhere. You've seen the story a million times before, but at least the setting is really pretty. Yeah, I tend to agree a lot with Meg here. There's a lot of things that the film has that is good, but I think the story and the way that it's structured is a big weakness for this film, and I agree with the anticlimactic ending. I don't think it helps itself at all. Next review is from Joe Pace. Joe gives it 4 stars out of 5, and Joe says, "This feels like a slog, but it's a good one." If that makes sense. It kind of makes sense, yeah. Wagner Moura is incredible and the standout of the whole thing. It lacks a bit of context throughout that I struggled to follow along at parts, but it has its moments throughout that are really strong, especially the last 30 to 45 minutes. A really strong political thriller in the ilk of Argo. Yeah, okay, I can see the Argo slant a little bit on this, but I do agree this film felt like a slog. I also agree it's a good movie, but I don't think dealing with the slogginess of it really felt justified, especially with that anticlimactic ending. This next review is from Honey Della Rose. Honey gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart, and Honey says, "Went into this with pretty high expectations since it's an Oscar contender, and to be fair, the technical craft and the vibes are immaculate with stunning cinematography, perfect 70s South African aesthetic, and Wagner Moura doing his thing so magnetically." Yeah, I agree on all points of that with Honey. But, the pacing really tested my patience. I am with you there. It takes almost an hour and a half before things really start to pick up. Yes, absolutely. But then it really feels a bit too late. The third act does look promising for a moment, but I don't care. The film spends too much time wandering through unnecessary subplots that it never quite lands the punch that it seems to be building towards. Seriously, though, there should be a follow-up on that leg. The leg, yeah. I enjoyed parts of it, but for a nearly 3-hour runtime, well, of course, I wanted more. I think some elements could have definitely been cut just to keep this thing focused. But again, it's kind of hard to say that when we don't know the context of what it is, what it means in Brazil. So there's that. And finally, this last review is from Andrzej. Andrzej gives it 3.5 stars out of 5, and Andrzej says, "The hairy leg part initially felt like a joke, but the deeper I dug into its symbolism, I realized there's a lot more weight to it than I expected." Yeah, that hairy leg thing was weird. I had to read up on it before I did my review, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes a little sense. But if you don't have that context, it just seems like it's out of nowhere and weird. So I would definitely check out what the hairy leg thing is really all about. So in review, I think Wagner Moura gives a very good performance in the film. I think the film has a very nice color palette, really good cinematography. I love the vibes of the film. Though I don't think the film is boring, it does take a while to get rolling, and I felt like the anticlimactic ending did not land all that well at all. I think it was a deterrent to the film. Overall, I'm going to give The Secret Agent 3 stars out of 5. I don't necessarily understand the praise for this film, and I think a lot of it has to do with not being familiar with the context and what the politics are when it comes to Brazil. But I did like certain parts of the film. I thought it was too slow in certain parts. I think the second act was a drag for the most part. But I think it's a good film overall. I just don't think it's worth the slog that you have to go through to get to the satisfying bits. So overall, 3 stars out of 5 for me for The Secret Agent. It is on Hulu right now. If you liked any of the reviewers I've highlighted in this episode, check out the description of the video for a link to their Letterboxd profile, and be sure to let them know that Brad from Watch Rate Heart sent you. You can follow me on Letterboxd and X at Watch Rate Heart. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and share with your friends. I'm Brad from Watch Rate Heart. Thank you for watching, and remember, we all watch and rate movies, but you give them the heart that makes them live forever.